10 WWE wrestlers who disappeared without a trace. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. Number 10. Kevin Nash. When Kevin Nash returned to WWE programming following WrestleMania 19, the company had grand plans for the former WWE champion. WWE were going to have Nash be presented as one of the top babyfaces in the company, and he would enter into a world title feud with Triple H. The two had an established history, so it made a ton of sense to explore the storyline. The two legends had several matches against each other on pay-per-view, and their feud culminated in the Hell in a Cell match at the 2003 Bad Blood pay-per-view. The matches weren't the worst thing in the world, yet they weren't at the level fans wanted out of a pay-per-view main event in 2003. Following a brief feud with Chris Jericho, Nash would finish up with the company at SummerSlam, where he competed in a grueling Elimination Chamber match. This appearance was notable as Nash appeared with a short hairstyle after having his hair cut by Chris Jericho on Raw. Nash would then exit the company as he required neck surgery, and just a year later, he would sign for TNA. Nash's absence wasn't addressed directly on TV, and it wasn't simply applied to the audience that he was off-screen nursing injuries. Number 9. The British Bulldog. WWE made the bold call to rehire the British Bulldog in 1999. The reason that this call was somewhat controversial was because Bulldog had dramatically regressed in the ring. Bulldog suffered a life-changing injury during his time in WCW, and this drastically hindered his in-ring output. Bulldog's Attitude Era run flopped hard, and this was despite WWE putting considerable effort in with the Bulldog, as he would be given a main event push shortly after his return to the company. After being moved down the card, Bulldog would have his last match ever for WWE on Sunday Night Heat against fellow wrestling icon Eddie Guerrero. The match would end in an anticlimactic way as both men would be disqualified and Bulldog would be released from the company just a week later. This was an unfortunate end to Bulldog's WWE tenure, but it was evident at this point in time that Bulldog wasn't a name that WWE were going to invest any substantial resources into. Number 8. Finley. Finley was a name that WWE decided to bring to the main roster permanently in 2005. Finley was previously a WWE trainer and he was tremendous in the role, yet WWE believed that he had more to offer as an in-ring talent. Finley's main roster run exceeded all expectations as Finley managed to get over as both a babyface and a heel, and there was even a push online to see Finley win the vacant world title in 2007. Finley would begin to appear less and less on WWE television as the years went on, and in 2010 he had his final ever WWE match at a live event against Drew McIntyre. Finley retired from WWE with a little fanfare, which was an unusual move as Finley had contributed an insane amount to WWE over the past decade. One of the potential reasons as to why WWE didn't seem to make a huge deal out of the retirement was that Finley would begin to work as an agent for the company, so he was still very much into the mix. It's possible that WWE held a celebration for Finley's in-ring career behind the scenes, but it would have been wonderful for the fans to be given the opportunity to say thank you to the former US champion. Number 7. Rikishi. In 2004, Rikishi was still incredibly over with the audience. He was one half of the reigning tag team champions with Scotty 2 Hotty, however, everything seemed to fall apart overnight. Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty would randomly drop the titles to Rico and Charlie Haas, and Rikishi would then suddenly disappear from television. It was reported that WWE weren't happy with his weight and they needed him to lose some mass or they were going to release him from his contract. Unfortunately, WWE weren't happy with his progress and they cut ties with him in the summer of 2004. This was a sad end to a great run in the company, and this sadly influenced Scotty's trajectory in the WWE, as the Master of the Worm was predominantly featured in dark matches and he was often booked on WWE's show Velocity. Number 6. The Big Boss Man. It was a smart call for WWE to bring back Boss Man in late 2001. Boss Man was a consistent worker and his persona managed to work across multiple eras. Just a few months into his final WWE run, Boss Man would find himself wrestling on Sunday Night Heat and he was clearly brought back into the fold to put over other talent. He would have his final WWE match in May of 2002 against Tommy Dreamer, and after this match he would be sent to OVW to train the superstars of tomorrow. This was such a lackluster end for the tenure of a name that had been attached to WWE for years. A final program on either Raw or SmackDown which linked to his eventual retirement would have been great to see, but WWE for whatever reason believed that his final match should be on Sunday Night Heat. Number 5. Taz. And whilst Taz's in-ring run in WWE didn't exactly light the world on fire, he was an outstanding color commentator. Taz's work alongside Michael Cole was one of the main reasons why SmackDown was so popular during the Ruthless Aggression era, and it was a huge blow when Taz decided to leave the company in 2009. In relation to how Taz handled leaving the company, he offered an insight into his departure during an interview on AEW Unrestricted. "I left on my own terms. My contract was up the week going into Wrestlemania. I wasn't there. That was it. I was done at Dallas TV before that. They offered me a new deal, which was a great deal. I had to get out of there. I saw Vince in Dallas and I officially gave word, shook his hand, said I was leaving in Dallas. He and I were crying and hugging. I'm gonna miss you. I thanked him for everything. It was great." In a weird move, Taz leaving WWE wouldn't be addressed on screen, and he wasn't even written off the show. The week after his exit, he would be replaced by Todd Grisham on SmackDown, which was met with a less than enthusiastic response from the fans. Number 4. Road Dogg. Road Dogg was one of the most popular acts of the Attitude Era. However, as the Attitude Era pushed into 2001, the former IC champion began to be used less frequently on TV. Road Dogg had a ton of personal demons, and this led to WWE suspending him and eventually releasing him outright from his WWE contract. Road Dogg would magically disappear from TV without too much attention being drawn to his release. However, in a rare move, WWE did release a formal statement on their website. The World Wrestling Federation and Brian James, aka Road Dogg, agreed to part ways today. Brian had been on indefinite suspension since December 19th. The Road Dogg is a tremendous talent, and we sincerely wish him the best of luck in the future. Thankfully, Road Dogg was able to get his life back on track in the preceding years, and he's been back in WWE for a number of years in a backstage role. Number 3. Ken Shamrock. It's a unique circumstance for a wrestler to disappear from TV in the middle of a feud, but that's exactly what happened with Ken Shamrock in 1999. Shamrock was in the middle of a feud with Chris Jericho when suddenly Shamrock was no longer being mentioned on Raw or SmackDown. It was explained that Shamrock suffered internal bleeding at the hands of Jericho and Mr. Hughes, yet Attitude Era fans were always under the impression that Shamrock was coming back, but he never did. It's often been claimed that Shamrock left the company due to him wanting to return to MMA. However, during an interview with Chris Van Vliet, the former WWE star claimed that he had issues with the WWE travel schedule as well as the creative direction of his character. Number 2. Gangrel. One of the more creative characters of the Attitude Era was Gangrel. Gangrel was incredibly interesting as a character, and his theme song is still often labeled as one of the greatest theme songs of all time. Whilst Gangrel never reached the main event scene in WWE, he was always popular and could have been used in more high-profile programs if he was given the opportunity. In the year 2000, Gangrel would often be used on shows such as Heat and Metal, and by the time the year came to a close, he was taken off the roster completely. The Living Vampire would be released from his contract in 2001, which was a massive shame, as he had so much to offer the company, and unfortunately, his removal from WWE programming was never addressed directly on screen. And number 1. Chyna. 2001 was the year in which Chyna finally entered the women's division. She would win the women's title at WrestleMania 17, and it looked like early on this was going to be the spark the women's division needed, as Chyna was a huge influential name. Sadly, Chyna's personal life was in total turmoil during her reign. As her ex-boyfriend Triple H was dating Stephanie McMahon, naturally this created an incredibly hostile atmosphere for everyone involved. Although she was women's champion, Chyna disappeared without a trace when it came to her character on WWE TV. She would wrestle Lita at the 2001 Judgment Day pay-per-view, then never appear on screen ever again. Chyna would eventually depart the company on extremely bad terms, and this unfortunate departure would be addressed on screen. WWE vacated the women's title until the 2001 Survivor Series event, and the fact that they didn't even mention that Chyna was no longer champion spoke volumes when it came to what they truly thought of the women's title. But there you have it, folks, 10 wrestlers who disappeared without a trace on TV. Be sure to leave your comments down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.